Dear grade 12 students, how are you all? This is our first literature lesson in term 2, and this term we're going to study the epic. In the first term, if you remember, we studied the lyric, and in this term we're going to study the epic. Defining the epic. One of the earliest forms of literature is the epic. So what is an epic? An epic is a long narrative poem that describes, that recounts the adventures of a legendary hero, a superhuman hero in pursuit of looking for a goal or trying to achieve a goal of national importance. Again, a long narrative poem. It describes or it recounts the adventure of a legendary hero in pursuit of a goal of national importance. So there is a national importance for his adventures or for his pursuit. The hero's accomplishments reflect the values of his culture and usually figure prominently in the history or mythology of his people. So the accomplishments he achieves reflect the values of his culture and usually figure prominently in the history or mythology of his people. And these achievements are sometimes ascribed to his nation or his homeland or his people. Elements of the epic, we have 5 of them. What are the 5 elements of the epic? Certain key elements set the epic narrative apart from other types of stories. It has 5 elements that distinguish it from other narrative or types of stories. Number 1, there is an epic hero about whom we're talking. The epic hero is the central character of an epic. This character is a larger-than-life figure, a very important character with superhuman powers, typically of noble or semi-divine birth. You know, semi-divine is like half a god, who pits his courage, skill, and virtue against opposing, often evil forces. Most of the time, this superhero fights evil forces. In the early English epic, Beowulf, for example, the hero Beowulf is a young warrior of high standing. He is something like a noble who fights a brutal and bloodthirsty monster. Not only one monster, but a monster and his mother. Number 2, the second element is of the epic is that there is a quest, and a quest means a mission. A quest is a long, dangerous journey or mission. A long, dangerous journey or mission undertaken by the epic hero. The quest is the hero's opportunity to prove his heroism and win honor and undying renown, fame. Beowulf embarks on a quest, on a mission to help a neighboring kingdom, not his own kingdom, by defeating the hideous, the hateful, the loathsome monster Grendel and his mother. Valorous deeds, element 3. These actions demonstrate the hero's courage. These are some of the deeds they valued at that time in his culture. To be courageous, to be strong, to be virtual or full of virtue, a virtual person, and make up most of the action in the narrative. For example, his superhuman strength is shown when he fights the savage Grendel with his bare hands and wins. So he must be brave and courageous. He fights with his bare hands and he wins. Number 4 of the elements, or the 4th item, is divine intervention. In many epics, not all of them, the hero receives help from a god or another supernatural force who takes an interest in his mission, in his quest. In the ancient Greek epic, the Iliad, for example, the goddess Athene helps the hero Achilles. Number 5, great events. Important events from the history or mythology of a nation or culture often provide the themes and backdrop for the epic narrative. For example, the Iliad takes place during the Trojan War, an important event in history, a war in which the Greeks invaded and conquered the city of Troy. As for the types of epics, again, we talked about the definition of an epic. We talked about the 5 elements of an epic. Now let's talk about the types of epics, and there are 2 main types. Number 1, folk epics. Folk epics. In ancient times, stories about heroes were recited orally or sung as entertainment and passed down orally from one generation to the next. So, a folk epic is an epic, a long story, told or recited or sung as entertainment and passed down orally from one generation to the next. These stories were eventually unified into folk epics and written down long after they were first composed. Examples of the folk epic include the following. We have 4 examples, and these are important. We have Beowulf, Anglo-Saxon; Gilgamesh, Sumerian; Mahabharata, Indian; and Sundiata, West African. This is type 1, folk epics. Let's move on to type 2, literary epics. Literary epics are written by individual authors. Written by individual authors, drawing on, using or benefiting from the style and conversations of the folk epic. Examples of literary epics include the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer, the Aeneid by Virgil, the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and Paradise Lost by John Milton. Is this important to remember? Yes. Yes, these 2 types, and the examples, 4 examples in the folk epic, and the 4 examples in the literary epics are important. There are 3 conventions, 3 traditions mentioned here. Most epics share certain literary or formal characteristics called epic conventions. Number 1, an epic opens by stating the subject or purpose, followed by an invocation of a muse. What's a muse? A spirit thought to inspire an artist. If you have an inspirer, this is called my muse, the muse of poetry, or supernatural force who would help to tell the story. Again, an epic opens by mentioning the subject or purpose, followed by an invocation like a prayer to ask or to summon, ask for the help of a muse. Number 2, the plot itself begins in medias res, Latin for in the middle of things, not at the beginning. In other words, the reader joins the story in the thick of the action. Most epics are serious in tone and lofty in style. This is convention number 3. Most of them are serious in tone. Why? This is a technique meant to convey the importance of the events, to tell you, the reader, that these events are important. So we are serious and we are using lofty styles. Lofty means sophisticated. Long speeches by the characters suggest an impressive formality, as do the lists of battles, weapons, and royal gifts. All these things are examples of seriousness and high level writing. I'll end this lesson here. Thank you very much.